Mhm. All right, everybody see the welcome to Lunch and Learn?
Mhm.
Perfect. So welcome everyone to Coffee, Lunch, and Learn. We have a great speaker today talking about organizing, but first we want to thank our amazing sponsor. And this month it's Huebner Marketing. And so here is a quick video. Everybody see an orange screen? Give me a thumbs up. Perfect. Here is that.
Hello, my name is Brian Gershner and I'm with Huebner Marketing. And we're really proud to be here and support the Coffee, Lunch, and Learn with RVWA. And we're also really proud to be a sponsor of RVWA and to be able to help them produce and distribute a lot of the marketing they do so that we can bring everybody together here today the way we have. And one of the things we're really proud of is how RVWA is bringing a lot of relevant content and messaging to the industry, and how that is just supporting and bringing more and more value to the industry as a whole. I love it too, because it's a lot of the same values and efforts that we put into our own marketing. As a marketing agency and working with partners, being relevant and being able to bring that value to the table to your audiences and the people you work with is just a cornerstone of just the principles of marketing and how we help build brands also. Not only building the story, because a lot of you already know the stories of your companies, but being able to put together strategic roadmaps, strategies that help spend the marketing dollars more effectively, to be able to put offensive planning and forward thinking into what's happening, so that there's better ability to react and be prepared, and just to be there at the right time with the right messages. Just so that you can not only reach out to your audiences, but helping to support the sales teams that you have in place that maintain and have those valuable relationships with your partners and your clients. At the end of the day, too, we know talk is only so much in planning. There's a lot of need to really get work done and to be cost effective at that. Huebner Marketing, in response to knowing this, and particularly working in the B2B environments, we have found ways to be very cost effective. We have very large digital support teams and creative teams that help us be very cost effective and to bring solutions and execution to the table to help people get things done. As we know, things never move fast enough often, particularly in industries as things are changing and as times have changed now. But we really are proud of the work that we've done with manufacturers and OEMs. And we're really proud of the work that we've done within the RV industry over the past 25 years and all of the various brands that we have worked with and supported. If you have time, please go to our website, huebnermarketing.com, and check out some of our partners and check out some of the work that we've done. We're really proud of it, and we're really proud to be here today also. Thank you. Enjoy.
So we definitely thank Huebner Marketing for all of their support. They've just gone above and beyond for us. So it's amazing for that. And without further ado, let me introduce you all to Sandra. Let me stop sharing my screen. There we go. All right. So Sandra introduction is like this, and I love it because it doesn't start with like, this is Sandra. She simply says, if you could grab a cup of coffee with a professional organizer, what questions would you ask? I'll bet you have a long list of them. Our guest speaker, Sandra Lane, is a certified professional organizer, productivity specialist, and founder of her own company, Organization Lane. She is the author of the best-selling book, Ask the Organizer. Sandra will share her message on how to stop procrastinating and start producing. Please welcome Sandra Lane. And
Thank
Sandra,
you.
let me give you a presentator.
I love, I don't know what the rest of your tag is there, Anna, but I got to say, smiling has got to be on the list because I am feeding off your smiling energy, and I want to thank you in advance for that. I know that many of you have got your screens down, and that's all fine, no problem. But when the opportunity presents itself to either give me a thumbs up or chat in the box, that would be awesome. And I just want to see if you've given me that screen sharing capability. I don't think I have that. Do you?
You should have it. Your co-host, you should have that.
Okay, let's see. Let's give it a shot. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, I also would like to thank the sponsor because I guess that means that they are taking care of, everything that it takes to provide this lunch and learn opportunity for everybody. And I do appreciate that. And in the time that we have together, you're going to need something to take notes with. If you haven't already printed off the PDF worksheet, that's totally fine. Just try to stay focused here for the next 40 minutes. A regular note-taking manila pad will work just fine. And if you could close the multiple web browsers and center yourselves for the next 40 minutes, I'd love to be able to share this message with you. Stop procrastinating and start producing. So the tagline for my company is getting you on the road to productivity. And on a good day, this is what I envision that road to look like. And I imagine you might as well. It's smooth sailing, very few bumps. However, at the end of the day, we may not have a task list that looks like we were quite as productive as we were hoping. And that is because on an ideal day, while we want this to happen, more often than not, we will have a number of obstacles and detours that get us off course. And one of those detours is the subject of today's talk, and that is procrastination. In his book, The Procrastination Equation, Piers Steele says that 95% of us procrastinate. 95%. And I think there's a pretty good bet the other 5% are lying because in all honesty, we all do it, okay? We all procrastinate. And in the time that we have together, I would love it if we get a better understanding of where we are when it comes to procrastination, understand why we do this, right? In the words of Simon Sinek, let's get down to the why. And then let's talk about the impact and strategies to outsmart it. So first, I have somebody to admit, which I will do. There we go. Sorry about that little distraction, which we're also going to talk about. You've got hopefully a piece of paper or the worksheet in front of you. I am going to ask you 7 questions. And if I advance too quickly, please let me know. And just write down A, B, or C as shown in the question. Here we go. Question number 1. Whoops, sorry. Let's go back. Question number 1. All right, I'm advancing to question number 2. Please shout out if I'm moving too fast. Question number 3. And question number 4. Number 5. Number 6. And the last question. Okay, so tally up your results. You either have mostly A's, B's, or C's, and feel free to screenshot this page if you like. I'm curious if anybody was surprised by their results, because oftentimes we know where we stand when it comes to procrastination, but I think this is a great exercise in just walking through the steps of some of the areas where we may be procrastinating and not really quite recognize it. No surprises. Okay, so I want to take a moment moving forward here to share with you the behind the scenes look of what's really happening when we procrastinate. Research suggests that it's not laziness, but really it's how our brain works. Essentially, what is happening here is we want to do something, but we have to do something else. It's simple as that. If you have kids and you tell them to do one thing, but they would rather do something else, you totally get how this works. We are basically children in this whole process. It never goes away. Those feelings of having to do one thing, but would rather do another it stays with us. And we need to get an understanding of what's really going on here. So in terms of the brain science behind it, our frontal lobe, which is the internal planner for us, that is where that critical thinking occurs, is telling us, hey, you have a task on your list. It's due by this date. Well, our limbic system, which is the emotional part of our brain, the feeling part of our brain, is saying, hey, you know, right? So the angel is our frontal lobe saying, hey, you got to get this done. You got to get it on time. And then it's the devil that is saying, you know, whispering in your ear saying, let's go in a here. Now let's unpack the impact that occurs. There is a ripple effect. When we procrastinate, put something, and we may know what that impact is, but it's worth noting and writing down. So the first is our health is impacted. We put ourselves in a position where we're crunching our deadlines when we put off something that needs to get done. We're shrinking our work window. And what that does is it increases our stress levels, creates some anxiety, and impacts our moods and our sleeping habits and how we communicate with others. It's stressful, essentially, and that's not a healthy way to work. It also has a negative impact on our relationships. Whether that task you're procrastinating is at home or work, it can impact your professional and personal relationships. Someone is counting on you to turn in a piece of this project and you're putting it off. That impacts their work, right? There's a trust issue. Your value in terms of the relationship is affected because of that procrastination. And then lastly, we may have all felt this at some point or another, to some degree or another, and that is the consequences that come with procrastination, which can range from a failed grade because you didn't study for an exam, give yourself enough time to prepare for that, or late fees because you're putting off paying your bills, or a missed opportunity with a client or advancement in your company because of your performance due to putting something off, right? So we get that. We understand that there's a negative impact. We also now understand, hopefully, that it's not laziness, that it's really just conflict in your brain. You want to do this and you should be doing this. But even though you know this now, you've written it down on your paper, it's still going to happen. I'm just giving you a heads up. It will still happen. So what I want to equip you with today are strategies to outsmart that procrastination. We might not necessarily be able to beat it all the time, but if you recognize that it's happening, how about having some tools in your arsenal to combat that procrastination? So I'm going to share with you 5 strategies, and I can tell you I've used all of them on one task. Do what you have to do, fire all cylinders, just put it all out there and do what you need to do in order to beat that task that you are procrastinating on. All right, strategy number 1 is to harness your natural energy. Sometimes you just don't feel like doing it right now. Well, if you're not going to now, then when? So recognizing what time of the day for you, and it'll be individual for each one of us here, when is your most energetic time of the day? When are you operating on all 6 cylinders? When are you most cognitive? And I will share with you a personal story. I did write a book, as Jessica mentioned, and I still write, but it's not my favorite thing to do. It is something, if given the opportunity, I will procrastinate, but I do think it's important to do. My most energetic time of the day is early in the morning. The earlier, the better, from anywhere from 5 to 9 a.m. of all times. But that's when I know my mental capacity is at its peak. I brainstorm during that time. I get a lot of great ideas. I've got that natural energy. When is yours? Recognize when that is, and then build your schedule around that energy with those tasks that you know you're procrastinating on. Now, granted, not every day will work out that way, but if you have it available to you, consider using that as a strategy. Okay, we're going to spend a lot of time in this space right here, so buckle down. Distractions. When it comes to distractions, they prevent us from doing deep focused work, which puts off a task, but it also provides us with an excuse to not do the task. And let me explain. Well, first, let me show you. Here's my most recent distraction. Hello, this is Raya. We adopted Raya 4 months ago, and she has been quite a distraction for me, right? Thank you. Yep, she's adorable, but I can't get any work done if all I'm doing is staring at her, watching her sleep, and, right? That's not going to happen. Thank you, my dear. What a wonderful little model. So when it comes to distractions, and there are a variety that fall into this category, we may not touch on every single one, but here's what you do need to know. And I don't know if you can see this because of the gallery up here, but it says at the top here, proactive. Be proactive when it comes to distractions and interruptions of any kind. You fill in the blank. But what you want to do when I mean proactive is you want to set boundaries. This is important. This is what you're going to want to write down. Eliminate them or satisfy them. Set boundaries, eliminate or satisfy. Now, let's unpack that a little deeper. Distractions, I have found, can be categorized into 2 buckets. The first bucket is biological distractions. And essentially what this means is anything that has to do with our own self-care, our own internal whatever is going on inside of us. So here are a few examples, and we'll use these biological distractions as an easy excuse to divert ourselves from doing the task at hand, okay? So, for example, you may have an uncomfortable chair that is, creating some back pain, some lumbar pain, and that is diverting your attention from the task at hand. So you'll use that as an excuse to get up, walk around. You know what? I'll do this later. Boom, all of a sudden you've got an excuse not to do your work. You may be tired from a poor night's sleep. You may have bad lighting. You may be hungry. You may be thirsty. Whatever that biological distraction is, that is your ticket out of doing this task, right? We will use any excuse to get out of it, okay? You need to recognize that, and you need to satisfy that, right? Going back to that general rule of thumb, what can you do to satisfy those biological distractions? Get yourself appropriate lighting. Make sure that you get a good night's sleep. Use lumbar support or a sit-stand desk. Get fresh air, sunshine. Feed yourself well, hydrate yourself well. Whatever that biological distraction is, take care of it, satisfy it, be proactive about it so it won't even rear its ugly head. Now, the next one is a little bit more blatant and obvious, which most of us have to deal with, is external. This is something on the outside of our internal bodies. And in some cases, they have an on and off switch, as you see here. These are some of the external distractions that we are faced with today, whether you're working in the office or a hybrid model of working at home. We're going to cover it all. It's critical to understand that this is not an effective way to work, to have these kind of distractions in our workspace. So what can you do to set boundaries, eliminate them, or satisfy them? And it may not seem obvious at first, but give me a couple of minutes here. So if you don't have this worksheet in your packet when you print it off the PDF, you don't have to write these problems out, just write the answers. I'm going to time this exercise with you. This is going to be fun. This is going to demonstrate distractions at work. Anna's already smiling and enjoying this whole process. Yay, third grade math problems. Whoop, whoop. Okay, so we are going to start the timer, and I would like you to experience the quiet of doing these problems in a, serene, focused workspace. Around 30 seconds or so, I'm going to start giving you a barrage of words. I'm just going to randomly shout out some words. Don't hit the mute button and don't write any of the words down. I want your goal to be to continue to work on these third grade math problems. Everybody get it? Okay. All right, why don't you go ahead and get started? Helicopter, kayak, cross, books, daredevil, church, cabinet, airport, guardian, phone, watch, swings, cutting board, library, ice cream, DVD player, dollhouse, teacup, tricycle, sandals, lasagna, typewriter, mouse, magnet, ocean liner, priest, flowers, T-Rex, paper, automobile, ring, pajamas, address book, sneakers, meatloaf, cosmopolitan, patio, lounge, airplane, chicken, pizza, scissors, picture, media, alligator. Let's stop. Okay. All right. Anybody care to unmute and share your experience? Or type in the chat. Shy group, no problem. No problem at all. Okay, so here's something to note. I'm quite sure that what you experienced was that it was easier in the quiet, able to do focused work, and then it became a little distracting and it slowed your process down in terms of, the noise. So the word barrage was essentially a simulation of the rings, the pings, the dings, the door knocks that we get all day long in terms of how we work. So there's a few things to take away here. The first is that it's not a productive way to work. It does many things to our workflow. But the first is that it is a time suck on the highest level possible. So there was a study that was done at the University of California, Irvine, and what they found when they monitored workers all day doing tasks similar to what many of us do, administrative, emails, data entry, etc., and then interrupted them periodically through the day, much like we get interrupted with a ring, a ping, or a ding. And what they found was it wasn't just the length of the distraction, but it took their brains as much as 23 minutes and 15 seconds to circle back and then get into that same rhythm and workflow of where they were before the distraction. If we are getting interrupted 10, 20, 30 times in a day, it's no wonder we're not getting work done. That's how much time we're losing because we're allowing those distractions to provide us with the excuse to not really get our work done, right? Because the answer usually is, well, I need to stay connected. It's part of my job. True, but hold on to that thought. Here's what's also happening because of this stop-start movement through our day is you're increasing your chances of mistakes by as much as 50%. We did something simple like math problems. Imagine if you're working on something more complex. It also increases our stress levels. And on a regular basis, that's not a healthy way to work, okay? So what's the answer here? I'm going to unpack this external distraction piece into two areas. The first is technology, and then the second are the live distractions in our world, the visitors into our office and the children in our life. So let's start with the technology piece first. Again, remember, how can you set boundaries, eliminate it, or satisfy it? So the first strategy that I'll share with you when it comes to the technologies is to turn off the notifications or put on a do not disturb setting. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do this all day. That would be completely unreasonable. However, can you set a boundary of doing it for 30 minutes? Can you create that quiet, focused environment for yourself for 30 minutes and then take a break? See if you've missed anything. You will get along further, faster, working in a block of 30 to 45 minutes rather than try to do this stop, start, stop, start. I challenge you to try it and let me know how it works. Next, we have become so reactionary to voicemail, rings, pings and dings, and email. We stop what we're doing in order to respond, right? It's not necessary, it's rare that some of these emails and voicemail messages that we're getting absolutely need a response right away. Can you use your voicemail message or your out of office reply for more than just vacations? Can you set up an auto reply that says you're checking email and voicemail 3 times a day and provide an alternate number if absolutely necessary? But this frees you up from that burden of having to answer anybody within 10 minutes, right? But more importantly, what I want you to consider doing is setting up designated times of the day to check and process emails and voicemails, right? Rather than be reactionary, stop and start is what you want to try to avoid. And this is a good solution. When you're on a diet, chips, chocolate, and cheese all have to be hidden in this house. So do you need to hide your phone? Do you literally need to put it away because of that fear of missing something, that draw, that pull that it has towards us? So stick it in a drawer, right? Do what you have to do. Increase your awareness of your usage. This is really huge because oftentimes we don't even realize how much actual time we spend on the phone. You can go into your settings and go to screen activity, and you'll not only see how much time you're spending daily and weekly, but where you're spending it. And that is important because if you find that you've got a few apps on your phone that are problematic in terms of keeping your attention and they're distracting you, remove them. Eliminate them altogether. You're not deleting the data. You're just limiting the ease and accessibility of getting to those, right? So it's not just a simple turn it off and on. You've got options here when it comes to technology. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a second because I've already thrown a whole bunch of stuff out at you. Any questions at this juncture? Let me open up the chat and see. Or if you've got strategies yourself. Okay, let me catch up to some of these messages. Thanks, Tony, or Peggy, whoever that is. I was doing math. I ignored you. Slightly distraction. Wow, 23 minutes. Yes. Okay. Anybody have anything to share in terms of a strategy that they may be using when it comes to technology that is effective?
I think nowadays with everybody working from home office, we saw a big increase in Zoom calls and Teams meetings, so back to back all the time. And now our company is considering to have a meeting-free day of the week. So stop that. Everybody can focus because we are now all the time back to back. You're in the calls and the meetings, and nothing gets done. So that's very helpful. It's also a little bit relaxing that you you can focus really on your tasks, and everybody can do that, and nobody is pulling you in a call or a meeting again. So
absolutely.
I think it's good.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And you'll see, I'm going to mention that shortly when we talk about visitors here. Okay, anybody else before I advance?
I was just going to say, Sandra, that I personally use like screen limit on my iPhone and everything. So it turns off and the notifications stop. Otherwise, I won't ever stop. You can't help but want to check and get back to people. And
yes,
that's something I've been doing over the past couple months for sure.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, you recognize that that's a problem, but that's the first step, right? Increase your awareness. There's lots of apps that you can either install or use your phone's settings to set up, again, eliminate, set boundaries, and satisfy them. Yep. Keep thinking in that mode. Those three proactive steps will help you as we move through this. Okay, so when it comes to visitors, and what I'm referring to here is going to be related to in-office visitors. I'm just going to move this over so you can see everything. Okay, so the first is share your schedule. Lots of folks, guests that come into your office that are not invited or you don't have an appointment, you can't hide under your desk. So you need to come up with some answers to satisfy this problem. Because visitors that come into your office, again, create this stop-start workflow for you and, again, provide you with an excuse to, catch up when rather you should be doing something else. So here's a few tactics to consider. The first is share your schedule with folks in the office place. If you've got kind of an open door policy in the past, let them know that, hey, you can come, but I'd appreciate it if you would block it into my calendar. Here are some open times for the day. So share your schedule with others. Just that act of doing that alone lets people know that your schedule is sacred and your time working at the desk is important to you. So let's see, if you absolutely need my time, how can we build that in? If you've got a door available to you, again, this is corporately, if you have a door available to you, can you close it and put a note on the door that says focused work in progress? That's a clear indication to that person on the other side of the door that you shouldn't be disturbed. Whether you work in an open office space or in a cubicle and there's lots of noise around you, again, that is a potential excuse of, not getting your work done. But also what I find is that earbuds do two things. They kind of keep you in check in terms of the noise around you. You can kind of block that out, but people are less likely to tap you on the shoulder and bother you if you've got earbuds in. So use those to your advantage. Remove and eliminate that invitation to sit down. So if somebody comes in on a regular basis, can you remove the chairs? Because they're only going to get comfortable and that lengthens their stay. Or when they come in, can you greet them by standing up and stay standing up? So that way it might shorten their stay. Can you relocate Can you move yourself to another quieter, less disturbing part of the office that is not being used? Perhaps a vacant room or a conference room or a coffee shop downstairs in the lobby? And then lastly, and I'm not sure if you can see this at the bottom here, it says do not disturb hour, which Anna already alluded to. There's lots of companies, not just because of meetings, but because of the constant stimulation that we are faced with, have created a do not disturb hour, or in the case that Anna mentioned, a day where there's no meetings, where there's everybody's covering each other, they're taking turns covering the phones, or making sure that nobody bothers anybody. Let's do deep work. It also highlights the fact that deep work is important in your industry and in this department and in this company. So let's really embrace that. And how can we do that as a department and as a team? Okay, I'm going to move on to, at Monica's request, because so many of us are still kind of in this hybrid mode of work, I think it's important that we focus on the little visitors that we might have while we're working from home. Now, granted, everybody has a different scenario that they're dealing with in terms of the age of the children, the position you have, the layout of your home. This isn't a one size fits all. These are a few strategies to think about. So again, with kids, they are accustomed to the whole idea of having a schedule because of school. Again, depending on their age, what is it that you can do for your kids to keep them busy from the minute they wake up until they go, till you're ready to give them some attention, focusing on those areas where you need them to be quiet. You know your schedule, you know what meetings you have. Schedule their day, particularly now with summer coming, with something to do that isn't always necessarily screen time, right? Again, you are creating a scenario here that sets boundaries for your kids. They are going to look for any excuse to not do what they're supposed to do. And one of those excuses is going to be, Mom, Dad, can I have a snack? Is it time for lunch? So again, you want to satisfy this, be proactive. What can you do in advance of that request? Set up some pre-portioned, pre-approved snacks, perishable and not, for your kids to help themselves with. When those interruptions occur, sometimes they're just not of an age where they can accept the idea of a note on the door that says focused work in progress, right? So how about the traffic light system? So a red light, and of course you have to have a family meeting here with them so that they understand the boundaries. But a red light on the door means that you're doing some important work and it needs to be quiet. And we used to use this when my kids were growing up. Now they're 25 and 22 and they still remember this. But red means do not come in unless there's blood on the other side of that door. I mean, it's like serious, right? And then yellow means knock and come on in. And then a green light means come on in, right? You're setting up boundaries for yourself. Your kids need to get this. They need to understand that this is important work time for Mom or Dad. Headphones. Everybody is competing with the noise and the attention. And what can you do or they do to kind of drown out some of that ambient noise? And headphones is a great solution. So providing them with that option and the right kinds of things to listen to, of course. All right, let me move this over so you can see. Strategy number 3 is going to be using a timer to your advantage here. And there's a couple of ways that you can do this. This timer that's here on this screen is called a time timer. I love it. It comes in a 60-minute interval. I use it with kids and I use it for work myself. So you can play a game just like you might do with your children. Again, we have to parent ourselves here when it comes to procrastination. So play a game with yourself. If you are becoming so absorbed in whatever task it is you're doing, but you know you need to be doing something else, give yourself that boundary, right? So set the timer for 5 minutes and tell yourself, okay, I'm going to surf on Facebook for 5 more minutes. And when you hear that beep, that is your jump start to get going and switch tasks and get to do what you should be doing. So you've satisfied that need to surf Facebook or wherever it is you're going, but you've also given yourself a boundary using a timer to go where you should be going, okay? The second way that you can use this is to at least get something started, right? Oftentimes we may have a task that seems insurmountable and huge, but if you set your timer to work for 30 minutes, no direction, you're not going to finish this, but at least you can get started, right? This is a mindset piece here. You're getting yourself started and you're at least getting 30 minutes in. What you might find will happen is that suddenly you've gotten further along than you thought, and I'm going to go 15 more minutes. I'm going to go another 30 more minutes. But the point is that you've broken through that, stumbling block of not getting started at all, and you've started, right? Because that's often a reason why we procrastinate on a task. And then lastly, this is a great tool to use when you are trying to time yourself when it comes to those notifications, turning them off for limited periods of time. This just keeps you in check. Questions at this point. We've got 2 more strategies left. Feel free to unmute if it's easier. I'm going to check the chat, make sure we're good there. Tony is going to use the red light on Peggy. I love it. Thank you. Okay, let's continue. Number 4. One of the reasons that we often procrastinate on a task is we are not entirely clear on our objectives, or this task is so massive that we don't know where to start. Anybody ever feel like this, right? Give me a hands up or a thumbs up. So there's 2 ways to approach this. Of course, the first thing that you want to do is not put off the task. That's what gets us into trouble, right? You need to recognize what's happening here. I really don't understand the parameters of this task. So just put down on your to-do list just that one task. Ask questions. What are the objectives of this task? Who do I need to go to? Is it a manager, a team, a co-worker, a team member, your boss, whoever that is? All you want to do is that one task. Define the objectives. That's it. You don't want to do the whole thing. You just want to pick apart that one task, define the objectives. Do that right away, and that will help frame what comes next. The other scenario is that a task is so huge, has so many steps, so many components to it, that we don't know where to start. So we will often put off doing that task. And what you want to do here is you want to break it down into smaller steps. So you're only working on one step at a time. But that initial step you need to take is to at least write out what those steps are. So it's a small step. You're either going to define, and then in the other scenario, you're just going to write out what those steps are. But that gets you one step closer to getting anything that is ambiguous or so massive started in that right direction rather than putting it off. You need to recognize that. Define the objectives or break it down. And then lastly, eat that frog. So we all have tasks that are unpleasant but important to us, and tasks that are difficult. And in Brian Tracy's book of the same name, Eat That Frog, he talks about procrastination. And the foundation of this book is based on the premise of Mark Twain's quote, that if you eat a frog, a live frog, first thing in the morning, anything that you do after that is going to be easy. Your frog is that most difficult and unpleasant task. You need to do that first. And you'll know what your frog is because at the end of the day, on your to-do list, it's always there and just gets transferred to the next day. Darn it, I didn't do that again. Put it on the next day. That's your frog. So for the next day, you want to do that first thing in the morning. Maybe even capitalize on turning off all the notifications. Capitalize on your energy level and do that most difficult task. I hope that makes sense. All right, I've got time for questions. So I'm going to open the floor up for that. But I also want to close with this quote from Nelson Mandela that I love using when it comes to tasks and how we put things off. It always seems impossible until it is done, and it will get done. But the important thing is recognizing what's getting in our way. So here's how you can stay connected with me. And now I'm going to turn it over to you all and go ahead and ask some questions.
Thank you so much, Sandra. So my question is there research around how many tasks are suggested to get done in a day?
Yeah. So there isn't research necessarily, but a good rule of thumb, of course, it's going to depend on the amount of time that your tasks will take. You also need to reflect on your calendar. How many meetings do you have? How much viable time to work on a task do you have in your day, given phone calls, meetings, etc.? So reflect on your calendar. But if you set yourself up to work on 3 tasks, now this is, of course, all things being equal. Let's say you have no meetings and you are in control of your schedule. There's no kids that are going to bother you and interrupt you. A good rule of thumb is 3 tasks. 3 tasks, because you can always add more. Just do 3. Do your most important 3 tasks, those that have deadlines, those frogs, put those down, and then you can always add more to the list later. But when you set yourself up for a list that it's got time consuming project after project after project, only to find that you've got more than half of it undone, that's very defeating. So start small and then grow. Hope that helps.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Feel free to drop questions in the chat too, if you can't unmute, but I would love to hear your thoughts around time blocking.
Yeah, I love time blocking. I have a whole presentation on just time blocking.
Oh, wow.
I was actually going to consider including it in here, but I really thought that I was just giving you entirely too much information. So that's another way that you can get time on your side, is to time block. So for those of you who are unaware, time blocking is when you assign a specific amount of time to do a specific task, and you work only on that task during that block of time. You can use a Google Calendar. You can use a regular manila pad and just write out the start and end of that time and only work on that task. So what that means is that you really need to make sure that you've got a handle on those distractions and interruptions, because the whole concept behind time blocking sets up guardrails for your day so that you stay in that lane. You're only working on that task for that amount of time and nothing else. So not everybody's day can permit that, particularly if you have the kind of job or the day that you know that you might have that's going to have run-on meetings that Anna was referring to, or maybe you are crisis management mode. You know, you're the guy in charge because the boss is out and everybody is going to be coming in. That's not going to be a good time block day. But here's the thing about time blocking: you don't have to do it every day. You do it when you absolutely need to stay in that lane, right? And it's important to recognize when you're going to start your day and end your day, and then fill in those spaces in between. Take into consideration those most important tasks and maybe put them on the front end of your day, right? Or schedule those most important tasks around your high energy level. Again, using some of those strategies I've already shared, right?
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, love time blocking.
Well, that gives me an idea. We should have you back for another one of these so you could give a whole presentation on time blocking to us. Really appreciate it, Sandra. You've been fantastic.
Thank you.
Hopefully some more questions come in here. Come on, guys. You guys are being quiet today. We got a small group, but
that's okay. That's okay. I'm reachable, right? So that's why I put this contact information here. Feel free to follow me on any of these social media sites, but please don't lose your time just because you're following me there. Right. But you can certainly send me questions. I'm happy to answer them. I am at your disposal. I'm happy for the opportunity to spend this time with you.
I think it's great. I think one of the things that I learned is that meetings are not an hour. Meetings don't even have to be a half hour. you can have an 8-minute meeting and a 15-minute meeting. And then tell, like, when somebody wants to schedule a meeting with you, is this an 8-minute problem or is this a 15-minute problem?
Right.
And then it's that time. And then when that time's up, the time is up.
Right. And you know what? That's another meetings is another presentation too, because it's so important. You know, we have to have these meetings, but do we? And do they have to look like a traditional meeting that we all know and have grown accustomed to? How about a walking meeting? If it's only 2 or 3 people, can you take it out onto the street and parking lot and get it done in, you know, a 15-minute walk? Yeah, there's lots of ways to shave minutes here and there and stay as focused on your work and your tasks. But we are going to constantly be bombarded, whether you're working from home or in the office, if we allow that to happen, which is why you want to really think about boundaries. What can you eliminate and what can you satisfy?
I think also that changed a lot also throughout the whole year. What we now have seen that initially when you had the in-person meetings, it was only a selected group, and because it's now so easy, everybody can join. They put all kind of participants in the whole call, and that makes it even more. It will take longer. It's not so effective. So that's also a big disadvantage, and you're pulled in everywhere.
Agreed. And if you have a leader of the meeting that really doesn't know quite how to pull in the reins, it can go in many directions, lengthening the meeting and really being a waste for most of the participants on the call.
Yep.
Thank you for the input. I just want to see, there's somebody that typed in the chat. We always try to block 30 minutes for a client meeting instead of an hour. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
It sets the stage for a shorter time. Perfect. Yeah, but you know what? I'll just, the caveat there, Dawn, is to make sure that the person running the meeting stays on task. The onus is really on that person that is hosting the meeting, has called for the meeting, to make sure that you stay on track. Otherwise, you're going to run over that 30 minutes. But that's a great start by setting that limit.
Yeah, something I do is we like to tell everybody at the beginning, you know, we set the meeting for a half an hour, but hey, what is everybody's hard stop? You know, does anybody have anything going on? And just asking that question on the front end so that there are no surprises and everybody's up to speed on what you expect for the meeting duration length and all that. So.
Great idea. Excellent idea.
Well, thank you, Sandra. I think we called a good session for today, and hopefully we can welcome you back in the future. We'd love to have you. RVWA has a brand new education committee. So as you were talking today, I was thinking we're going to be doing some seminars, so lengthier sessions with more of our membership. We'd love to have you back for one of those or a future coffee, lunch, and learn. So everybody, feel free to contact Sandra. You have her information right up here on the screen if you need her. But we wish you a happy and safe rest of your Friday and weekend ahead.
Thanks so much. Great to be with you all.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Have a nice weekend.